Sir, Netanyahu recently said that there has been some progress in talks over the exchange of detainees. How do you interpret his comments, and what impact will the exchange have on the broader situation in Gaza?
I'm actually unable to understand really what he said because we have been hearing this for several months now. There have been attempts to secure a ceasefire under many titles and names, whether a humanitarian ceasefire that would allow for humanitarian aid to be pumped into the Gaza Strip, or a ceasefire that would end this genocide in by exchanging prisoners and sealing a deal. But every time we approach the end of this negotiation, something happens, and Israel eventually decides not to go forward with it. So I'm quite concerned. I don't really believe now every time I hear that we are close to a deal. Obviously, everybody hopes for something like that to happen because we want this genocide to stop. We want the humanitarian aid to reach to the population of Gaza that is very much in need to this humanitarian aid. However, what we are observing is a continuation of the starvation of the people of Gaza, a continuation of the destruction of the Gaza Strip, but not only that, also expansion of the war into new spaces. We could see how
This is
now
what
Israel,
Netanyahu wants, sir, right?
exactly, this is exactly what he wants.
Because
He,
I got mixed up.
yeah, exactly. He's now occupying new spaces in Syria, despite the fact that Syria is not threatening any any security considerations that he might cite are certainly untrue. I mean, Syria is very busy with its domestic
Sir,
situation.
conclusion wise, he wants to change the map. Netanyahu's focus on Iran, sir, and labeling it as part of an axis of evil, seems to dominate his narrative. How does this shift the attention away from the war on Gaza, sir?
Certainly, I think that Netanyahu is hoping to expand the war and to have allies helping him in expanding this war, especially the United States. I think he is hoping that with the Trump administration, he will be able to fulfill his dream of having a very major attack on Iran, and at the same time he can continue his war and his colonization also in Palestine. I mean, in the West Bank, the dynamic right now is further colonization, a will to annex further territory from the occupied West Bank. There are movements now within Israel that are working on developing the plans to colonize in the Gaza Strip, to construct settlements in the Gaza Strip. So all of these colonial dreams are being fulfilled under the cover and under the smoke of the ongoing war that probably Netanyahu wants to expand in order to make sure that nothing obstructs Israel's colonial ambitions in Palestine and beyond. I mean, we noticed over the past weeks how a number of Israelis also want settlements in Lebanon and further in Syria. This is not new. This is something that we have been observing since the Nakba of 1948.
Of
It's
course, sir,
always
yeah.
a colonization in expansion.
He is also, sir,
It
he's
never
also,
stops.
go ahead, sir.
Sorry, I
He's
was saying
also
it never
facing
stops.
internal problems and criticism inside Israel from the Israeli citizens as well about the detainees issue. And
Well, yes.
okay,
Yes, I
sir,
mean,
despite widespread international condemnation of Israel's actions in Gaza, Netanyahu maintains his position on military escalation. How do you think this stance is affecting Israel's global image and its relationship with its allies, which you mentioned the United States on top of all?
look, certainly the global image of Israel has really changed. We are witnessing now fundamental changes in strategic relationships that Israel has enjoyed over the past decades. The relationship with countries like Norway, like Spain, like Ireland, which is intending to turn the Israeli embassy into a Palestine museum, are certainly signs of the changing view of Israel, not as an ally, but more of a state that is continuing with its genocide and other crimes against humanity, including apartheid. The UN General Assembly has issued a resolution demanding that that Israel ends its occupation and calling for sanctions against it.
Where's,
So
sir, the
world,
actions? At the end of the day, there are no actions yet.
not really. There are some actions, but not sufficient. So certain countries have started with sanctions. We have Turkey, we have a number of European countries, we have a number of Arab countries also that has already changed its relationships with Israel. Of course, this has not led to Israel ending its genocide and ending its violations, but this is not something that can happen overnight. You need to accumulate the critical mass of sanctions for Israel to start rethinking its position. This is something that we've seen in the past in different places, including, for example, South Africa. The regime in South Africa continued to seem strong until its fall and collapse.
Okay,
And then
sir,
it was, then democracy
Netanyahu
was.
has been facing corruption charges while leading Israel during this war. Sir, parallelly, of course, at the same time, how does this focus on the internal divisions in Israel and aggression on Gaza affect his leadership, both domestically and internationally, sir, as, of course, Netanyahu has no more credibility anywhere?
To be honest with you, this is a very sad thing to watch. While Netanyahu is accused of war crimes and crimes against humanity by the International Court of Justice, and there is an arrest warrant against him for really, these terrible crimes, we can see that the Israeli domestic legal system only is holding him accountable for certain acts of corruption. And this shows us that the system itself is corrupt. A system that does not hold a person accountable for really major crimes like war crimes and crimes against humanity, and only looks at what bottles of champagne the leader received as gifts, and I don't know what other accusations there are, shows a really big problem within the Israeli judicial system. If the Israeli judicial system was working according to international law, of course, this war would not have lasted until now. This genocide would not have been possible until today. So it's unfortunate. Yeah, that's the sad part of this trial.
Sir, unfortunately, I'm out of time, and that was Dr. Munir Nuseibah, Professor of International Law, joining us from occupied Jerusalem. Thank you very much for your insights, sir.